This is the Cafe Racer Podcast, episode 71 for March 6th, 2015. I'm Crash.
I'm Steven.
Hey, we're back on schedule.
That was amazing. We didn't mess it up at all.
No, it wasn't like some weird catastrophe that happens every time.
Right. Could be a portent.
Maybe.
Maybe
It's
not.
going to be a good episode.
So what have you been doing?
Well, I've been off work for the last week. Haven't really ridden this whole time, but the week before I was able to ride, and so I was able to check my new speedometer and all that sort of, the gauge setup, and it works great. I love that thing. That's that Koso TNT that we talked about. It functions. The only function that I'm missing, technically missing, is there's no check engine light built into the gauge. There's just a warning light.
Okay.
And I wired the low oil pressure light and the check engine light to that light. So now, if either condition exists, that light comes on.
Well, you had a spot on your triple clamp where you had some additional lights on there.
I used to, yeah, but I don't have that gauge bracket anymore.
Okay.
I could have gotten the same one, or one with the same things, but I didn't really need it. I don't feel that there's that much of a need because, let's face it, I'm riding down the road and the light comes on, right? I'm going to pull over and investigate.
Right.
And if I've got low oil pressure, I think I will figure that out. If it's not oil, then it's probably my check engine light.
Right. The manual for the Bonneville, does it list the things that cause a check engine light?
I don't think so.
Do you have any type of, I guess not, now that you changed that gauge package? Because like on the Stelvio, being a little bit more comprehensive,
Mm-hmm.
there's a menu you can go into where you can look at all the ECU and dash light error.
Yeah. The Bonneville my Bonneville never had a menu. I don't know about the newer ones because the next year they had totally different gauges, all electronic gauges, and I don't know if there's a way to go through a menu on those, but on everything mine and older, there's nothing. Just a plain old analog gauge with a light.
So it's funny because I looked the other day, I was getting, when I went to start the bike, I was getting a service light and a warning light that I've never seen before.
Mm-hmm.
Just when you turn the key on, a little triangle came up and it said service.
Hmm.
There's a normal service interval icon, which is a little wrench that pops up whenever it's time for oil changes. But this was something new. But it only came on when I went to go start the bike. So I went in and I looked through all the ECU and dash error codes, and what they have on there is two columns on either side. One says active, and the other one says like a logged code. So the only ones I could find were things that had to do with the anti-theft system, like the key not being present or something like that. But what I think it is, actually, I think it's low voltage on starting. Like my battery's getting ready to croak on me. It's been close to 2 years. It'll be 2 years in August.
Yeah. Motorcycle batteries aren't known for longevity.
No, and I've been researching, lithium-ion batteries to replace it. So
yeah,
I might have a Shorai or something like that in my future.
Yeah, I was gonna say Shorai and Ballistic both make really good ones.
Yeah. You have any? What about any of the other stuff that's been out there, like Zero Gravity, or I think there's some sort of something from Earth.
I don't know. The only ones I've ever really seen are the Shorai and the Ballistic.
Right.
I haven't done a whole lot of research into it. I'm sure I will eventually, because whenever bike number 2 finally makes its way in the garage, the Bonneville gets to begin phase 2 of crazy modification process. So that'll probably involve.
What's the game plan for that?
Something similar to the TT100 from Twisted Throttle, with a bigger bored out, 909 bored out to 904, and redone rear tail section and frame bit, do the whole traditional loop around the frame at the end and redo the seat.
Okay. Yeah, that'll be cool looking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
It'll
really.
take a while
I'm
and a
still
lot of money.
looking for the perfect, you know, what's going to be a cafe bike because I'm just really not feeling this project I got going right now.
Yeah.
Been pretty much stalled since the day I brought the bike here. There's a lot of things going on. It's just that and the time factor.
Yeah.
Time, you know, it's been work's been crazy and everything else that surrounds it's been nuts. So look, good part is I got to ride the bike to work the other day.
Oh,
So
good.
you hear the dogs barking by any chance or
I
not?
just barely.
Good. They I think my wife's coming home and they go nuts.
Yeah.
Never like when are we gonna come back? Anyway, they're
Hmm.
howling like somebody's murdering them.
Nice.
Thank God I got a good mic. So yeah, I rode to work the other day and it was really a beautiful day. It's been great here. The weather's been really mild and just today it rained a little bit, but everything was working really good on the bike and the only thing I have to do now is change out I think I need a new starter on the Le Mans. That's the next project. So I got to order one and take
Yeah.
it. Yeah. I and I'm still planning on riding up to Daytona next weekend for the last weekend of Bike Week. It officially starts this weekend,
Nice.
and next weekend will be the 200, the Daytona 200, which oddly enough is not going to be a pro race this year. Did you hear that?
I think so. I think actually you and I were talking about that.
Yeah, I don't know if we discussed it on the last show or not, but what happened was the family that owns the track, the France family, for whatever reason, they never came to a final agreement with Crave Group and Moto America on the race. So it's going to be a CCS, a club race, which I'm actually kind of looking forward to because those guys do some really competitive racing.
Yeah.
So it should be cool, and then see whatever support races they have. But then AMA, I think this weekend they're running the Supercross, and then next weekend, I believe on Saturday is the flat track race Saturday night. So hopefully I'll be able to see that. We'll see. Depends on how the week shakes out. It's been really busy at work, and I got a deadline on some stuff I'm working on, so
Right.
that has to get done first. But other than that, I got a helmet in the mail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I got to wear mine.
And how'd you like it?
It's good. I talked last show about how I had put it on a couple times and gotten a little bit of pressure on the back of my head, and how I may want to go in there and like smash down some of the inner material to make just a tiny bit more room. And I ended up doing that, and it fits much better. It's much more comfortable. I'm now suspecting that it might be just a tiny bit too big, and not as a result of that modification. Like, it just feels like it might be a little bit too big around the top of my head. Just like not enough that I think I'd be able to go down a size, but
Right.
just a tiny bit.
It was funny too because this helmet is a double XL, and we'd kind of talked about that when they were
Hmm.
talking about setting it. This is the Cali Protectives Tantra, or
Yeah.
Tantra, and this is actually a lower end price helmet, but for what you get in it, you get a lot of features in here. It's really nice, but the interior liner on the helmet's an XL, so they had switched out the liner for me and put an XL liner in, and I think fits perfect.
Good. Because I had tried it on before I sent it to you.
Think
It felt fine. I didn't ride with it or anything, so
think it was large or not?
I didn't know. I didn't know that the liner had been switched out. It felt maybe a little big on me, but I think if I were going to go out and buy one right now, I'd try to find a large and try it on first to see if I can wear a large.
Some of the features this thing has is it's got a drop down shade, which is
I think it's really interesting. Yours has that and mine doesn't, and mine's the like slightly higher end one.
yeah, and one of the things that makes this helmet a little bit different is this piece right here. That's how they did the. This is the where the
Yeah, I was wondering about that. It almost makes it look like a modular for just a second because it's got that seam.
it does, and the seams kind of around the sides as well too. You got decent venting on the top. There's some back exhaust venting,
Hmm.
and the two front vents as well. And then actually inside, behind the front vents, there's quarter turn vents that you can turn that front vent completely off. Close it.
Yeah, I wish I had it here actually, but mine has like a little slider. It has a center vent instead of two side vents, but the center vent has a slider on the inside, and I can actually reach it with my tongue. I was doing that the other day. I like reach in, like flick the slider up and close the vent off.
Wow.
The chin bar. So my other helmet's the chin bar is way far away, but the chin bar on that thing is right up next to my mouth.
Yeah, see,
Um,
on the AGV, it's far enough away where I couldn't do that if I wanted.
yeah, the microphone actually on my Senna is touching my mouth,
Hmm.
so that's how close it is.
Well, the thing about that is you could actually use the button mic if you wanted to on the Senna. The
Mm.
one that's the remote little kind of tab that they have that Velcros in
Yeah,
came in the kit.
yeah, I saw that.
Let me ask you. So this thing, if you notice here, I've got you can see this. For those of you that listen to this on a podcast, if you really want to see this, go to our YouTube channel and you can watch this video. But for right now, if you can see, you can look inside here and you can see I've got the cheek piece out. This piece here is kind of lined like a tricot lining. Is it the same on yours? That's the ear pocket.
Yeah, the ear pockets on that thing are really big.
Yeah, they're big. The nice thing about
I
that
was
is,
really pleased.
did you cover the speakers with the like little neoprene cover and then Velcro them in?
I I don't have my speakers in it. I have my speakers are in my laser helmet.
You're
I
using
didn't feel like taking them out.
right. So this makes right out of the box easy for installation of a comm system. There's no cutting of anything. The pockets are already kind of there in place, and like I said, with that lining, Velcro sticks right to it, the hook of the Velcro. So while I'm talking about this, I'm going to show you real quick. I'm going to pull out the rest of this liner, which is pretty easy to do, and show you what the inside of this thing looks like, because that's one of the claims. And so you have this removable liner that's washable.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, that's a pretty standard thing.
Yeah, vented on the inside like pretty much all the manufacturers of liners. If you look inside here, you can see how there's no space really between the EPS and the helmet itself. It's bonded right to the helmet.
Yeah, which is sort of their claim to fame.
And so you have the exhaust channels in here. It makes for a lower profile and smaller all-around helmet.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't actually weighed it to compare it to the AGV, but the objective felt weight feels a little lighter.
I did weigh mine, and I'm gonna pull up. I didn't write it down. I just took pictures of the scale. I'm gonna look real quick while we talk, so I have a bargain basement. I found it. So I got this bargain basement full face helmet that it's my wife's helmet. She practically never rides, so we didn't get her something super, fancy or expensive. It's 3 pounds 11.5 ounces,
Mm-hmm.
and the Cali, mine's the NASA, is 3 pounds 4 ounces. So it's almost 8 ounces lighter, so almost a half a pound.
About a half a pound. That's significant.
Which is, relatively significant. I don't remember the exact weight on my carbon fiber laser flip face, but it's extremely light for a flip face, and it's almost 4 pounds. It's right up there at the upper limit of 3 pounds and something.
Modules are always going to be a little bit heavier because of the mechanics. You have to make them to meet the standard for crashworthiness. So these are the interior pieces, and if you notice, they're marked by sizes. These are XL cheek pieces and an XL, liner.
So what do you think of the material? The materials in mine all felt really high quality and really well made.
To me, this is on par with, the way it looks and feels. It's on par with the Arise I've had in the past.
Yeah.
And certainly the AGV, everything looks to be put together real well. The only thing I noticed that was kind of difficult was when you put these cheek pieces back in is lining up the snaps.
Yeah.
That's kind of difficult to do. Otherwise,
installing the Senna made that. When I was installing the Senna, I had a hard time putting the cheek pad back in.
Yeah. Other than that, everything is the quality is really nice. The paint on the helmet, it's a flat paint. It looks really good. The visor is really easy to take on and off. It's just one piece that you click in. I mean, I'm really, really impressed by this. I hope that they come out with a modular. I know that when I was at AIM, they had a modular in the booth, but it was something that they had discontinued because it really wasn't the quality that they wanted to put out. They kind of had said that, we're not making this anymore. But You know, for what this helmet costs, and I think retail on this is 179. Can you look it up real quick?
Sure.
Tantra, but you're getting a really great deal. You know, you're getting a really quality helmet for that price. And it was very comfortable. I'm actually going to ride with it tomorrow morning. I'm going to set it all up and ride with it tomorrow morning. What are you doing tomorrow in the morning?
Tomorrow's Saturday?
Yeah.
Actually probably going to work out with some people in the morning, and that's about it. No real plans.
Before you leave, maybe we'll try to we'll record a conversation with the Sennas.
Yeah.
I'm going to transfer it over from the other helmet into this helmet.
I'm trying to look up the price of this thing. Who sells these things?
It's on. Look at full retail on Cali's website.
Is it printed on there? I don't remember seeing it.
Hold on, let me look real quick. Actually, they're on Amazon. They have an Amazon page.
There it is. I found it. The 2014 Tantra is $119.
Yeah, that's like build pricing, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, the carbon Naza, which is not the one I have the plastic one, but the carbon Naza is only $369.
That's a deal for a carbon fiber helmet.
Yeah.
They're really, and like you said, their claim to fame is the way that things are manufactured and their crash worthiness. They're going to knock it out of the park. If that's like I said, I thought I saw the full retail price for it might have been $159, but still, that's nothing for a decent. Yeah. So maybe tomorrow we'll both be wearing them and wearing the comms and can record a little bit of sample.
Anywhere I go tomorrow, I'm going to be on the bike because somebody's borrowing my truck anyway. So
yeah,
I'll definitely be on the bike.
We have we're going to a wedding tomorrow afternoon, but the wife is going to go help decorate in the morning, so I got a hall pass for the morning.
Nice.
Which means taking a long ride. I don't know if I'll be able to ride Sunday morning, and hopefully it won't be raining in the morning, but yeah, that's what I'll be doing. I might even change the transmission fluid tonight, or the gearbox fluid on the Stelvio.
Oh yeah, I forgot you have like 12 different fluids on your bike. You got like your final drive, your transmission, your oil.
Yeah, it's like, so I had to order transmission fluid from Amazon because nobody here carries. One of them's 8590 and the other one's 8090. And the only reason I'm keeping with that is the warranty. So as soon as that bike's out of warranty, it's going to get redline in both the gearbox and the final drive.
Yeah.
The redline shockproof, because I put that in the tending when I first got it. Did I ever tell you the story about the kickstand problem with that bike when I first? So when I went to go pick up that bike and buy it, the guy that I bought it from tells me, "Hey, you got to start the bike with the kickstand up." And I'm like, "Why?" And he's like, "Well, it's just the way they're manufactured." I'm like, "I've never heard of that before." So yeah, I start the bike with the kickstand up, and I can't find neutral. So the neutral light's not working. Well, it's the bike's in neutral, but the neutral light's not working. So I'm like, this isn't a kickstand. This is some sensor.
Right.
Yeah. Well,
like the kickstand switch, or
what it really is it's a neutral switch. It's not a kickstand switch. It's a neutral switch. So the switch is basically always in the closed position, and then when the bike goes in neutral, it opens it up, and that's how it knows if the kickstand's down or not. There is a kickstand switch on the bike as well for when you're in gear, but this is a neutral switch. So it's actually in the side of the transmission itself. And, I got online and I read and found you could replace it for about $40. So I went ahead and I ordered one. But I took the thing out, leaned the bike over a little bit, took the thing out, sprayed some cleaner on it, kind of exercised it a little bit, put it in, still didn't work. So reading up, it said that the thing was really kind of sensitive to the type of oil in the gearbox, which, it's worth a try. So I drained the oil out and I put Redline in there, what everybody recommended. Worked instantly.
Nice.
Bizarre as it sounds that the oil changed, that maybe it's the viscosity, I don't know. But neutral light worked and the bike starts with the kickstand down. So,
whatever makes it work.
Just the change in the viscosity of the oil in there made a big difference. So as soon as the warranty's out on the Stelvio, I'm going to go with the Redline shockproof in both the transmission and the gearbox. Which the Italians, that's what they call your final drive, is your transmission. Your gearbox is your what we would call the transmission.
Okay.
And the motor oil is still that goofy 1060. So I have to I order it now through Amazon Prime because I can get it for like $15 a liter compared to buying it locally at 17 or 18 a liter.
Right.
And you know, everyone there's like any other oil discussion. There's 9 million opinions on it, but
Yeah.
I'm gonna stick with what the manufacturer suggested for that.
I'm like I'm one of those guys that puts Rotella T6 synthetic in everything that takes oil in his house.
A lot of people do that with the Stelvio too,
Yeah.
and have no problems with it, and have tens of thousands of miles, if not more, using
Yeah.
it.
Of course, I'm also that like anal retentive douche that sends his oil off to get as a sample and gets it tested every time I change my oil on my bike too. So.
Well, since you brought that up, the last time we had talked about that, I ordered one of the kits.
Mhm.
So the oil change, I'm going to do it.
Okay. Cool.
It's just that I read the instructions and I need to actually take a sample while I'm riding.
Yeah, you got to get the bike hot.
Yeah, I need to go for a long ride. I'm going to bring a syringe with me with a tube on the end of it and draw a sample up from when I'm riding.
See, I couldn't actually do that in my bike where the oil cap is. I couldn't get it in there far enough. Because like if you take my oil cap off, there's the the teeth from a gear are right there.
Right.
Yeah, like you can't get so. What I do is the other way of doing it, which is you go for a ride, get everything hot, and then put on a glove that that you're not going to melt, and then pull the oil plug while I change the oil, and then you take the sample like kind of in the middle of you let it kind of like flush out that initial bunch of crap that sits on the bottom of your oil pan, and then you grab a sample, like fill the sample bottle up.
Let's have a discussion about oil changes real quick because I found.
Sure.
What are you using for gloves?
I will use nitrile gloves that I get from Home Depot to keep oil off me. That's about it usually.
I've been doing that for a long time.
I'll use like a red rag or something to, if the oil's really hot, to just keep it to give like just a second longer for me to get my hand out of the way when it comes out.
So I found these gloves that are like a knit glove that are dipped in rubber.
Mm-hmm.
For like doing oil changes and stuff. So I wear a pair of nitrile gloves under those. Usually whenever I'm working on the bike, I wear a set of mechanics gloves.
Yeah.
Just in general. But these oil change gloves, man, they work really good. It's the nice part about it is they come off and on your hands real easy, especially if you have nitrile gloves on underneath.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter how messy you get. The Stelvio is always a messy oil change because of where the oil filter is. It's directly underneath the motor. So even when you drain all the oil out of the bike, and then you go to take the oil filter off the bottom, as you're pulling it out of the motor, it just dumps all that excess oil onto you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Bonneville is the same way.
Yeah. So
I've actually started poking a hole in the bottom of it and letting it drain.
You know what? That's not a bad idea.
It all started once because I went to my parents' house. I was visiting them, and I was like, I really need to change my oil. So I did it and realized I didn't have an oil filter wrench that would fit the tiny oil filter on the Bonneville, and I shoved a screwdriver through it and then just spun it off that way. But, stabbed that hole in it, and it started leaking. I was like, this actually gets rid of all the crap that's in it before I take it off.
That's a good idea.
So I just punch a hole in the bottom of it before I pull it off.
So yeah, I went and bought the right size wrench for that thing, and then when I did that, I found all these really cool funnels. Like there's a metal articulating funnel that's got a screen in it that I use.
Oh, nice.
Because to get to where the filler is on the Stelvio, there's nothing made that'll fit that. Articulating funnel, and now the thing just kind of sits there on the engine guard and it's perfect.
Oh, good.
Well, on top of that, then I found this other thing that has a 1 liter reservoir on the top that's graduated, and then it's got an on and off shut off and a clear tube. So when I do the final drive,
Oh yeah, you can measure it.
Yeah, you just put 300 cc's in there because that's all the thing takes, and run that right in, and it's good to go. It's done. The same with the transmission takes a half a liter, 500 cc's. It's
nice.
And then I found this weird kind of thin, crushable funnel that's like almost hot dog shaped, sort of, like a bun that is perfect for draining the oil out of the transmission because it fits between like the frame rails and kind of goes right up underneath the plug and.
Right.
So now I have like this complete oil change kit for the Stelvio of all this crap that I've kind of.
So do you have to change all 3 fluids at the same time, or is that the recommendation that you do them all at the same interval?
6,000 miles is when they get done. So
yeah,
I usually do that and check the valves at the same time.
When you send your sample in, they'll send you back like a recommendation on whether or not they think you could go longer or shorter, or you know what I mean, with your oil change interval. And my truck, 165,000 miles, it's 14 years old. They have been giving me increasingly longer intervals every time. Like I'll send in my oil, and they're like, the first time I did it, I was doing my oil change every 3,000 miles.
Mm-hmm.
I sent it in. They're like, yeah, you could wait 5. I did like 5. Like you could wait 6. Last time I sent an oil sample in was 6. They're like, try 7.
Seriously? Do they keep a file on you so they know it's the year?
Yep. I can actually screen share an oil sample report from these guys since we know how to do it. Let me pull one up.
Wow, that's really cool.
I'll pull up my last oil, like the Bonneville's last oil sample report or something. Oh, it's my truck. My truck works. Doesn't matter. All right, let me see. Screen share thing. So, again, if you are listening to this on the podcast and you'd like a detailed look at the inside of my Bonneville's engine from the oil perspective, then go to our YouTube page and take a look.
Yeah, the really cool thing about our YouTube page is you can go back and watch any of the episodes in the past. So if you hear something on a podcast and you wanted to see what we were talking about or see how ugly Chris actually is, you can go.
It's true.
Look at it, yeah.
It's quite true. So, if you look here, it's got my address. So I'm going to scroll down, if I can. Whatever. But it's got the current one is this first column. So this was like the amount of aluminum, chromium, iron, all the different metals and whatever, and then their different tests, like their viscosity at different temperatures, and then flash point, fuel percentage, all kinds of stuff down in the bottom section. And then this next column, this all gray column, is averages based on similar engine types. So you'll get, basically they're like, okay, you have a 800-ish cc twin cylinder engine. So they compare based on any other similar engine types. And so you'll get to see the averages. So, I'm below average on pretty much everything. So that's good news. And then these next columns are every other time they've tested your oil. So at 4,100 miles when they tested my oil, at 4,000 miles on the oil, here were my numbers, and then the time before that, and the time before that, and then they give you this write-up in the top that talks about like, here's kind of an explanation of if there's something high or low. Like a couple oil changes ago, I had a really this column, like this one down here, where it says my fuel percentage is 2%.
Right.
It should be less than 2%, and it was right at 2%. Mm-hmm. And my flash point was pretty low, which meant the oil burnt pretty quickly. They sent me an email, like an email as well as this comment block mentioned, hey, your fuel is high and your flash point is really low and your viscosity is crap. So you might want to look into, sources of fuel getting in your oil. Now I knew what had caused that, thankfully, because it had been a day, like one day of riding, well, one day, like one trip home where my engine was running on one cylinder.
Mm-hmm.
I limped home on one cylinder one day. And so that right cylinder was just filling up with fuel. And it was just draining around the cylinder into the oil. So that's how I got a bunch of fuel in my oil. Fixed that problem, which it turned out to be a spark plug. Changed the spark plug. Next oil change, boom, right back into acceptable levels for everything. And they said, and this was almost 6,300 miles on that oil, and they were like, try 8,000 next time.
So what do you think the benefit of this is, other than longevity, the fact that you don't have to go, you've gone from 3,000 to like 8,000 miles on an oil change? Just the
Uh,
savings in what it costs. What is it, $35 to have this done?
yeah, so it's $25 if you don't do what they call a TBN, and I don't know what the TBN. I don't know what it stands for, but it's the additive. I'll stop screen sharing, but it's the additive that's in the oil, like that's in synthetic oil.
Mm-hmm.
And they test the level of it, and basically as it as it goes down, your oil is it's kind of a sign that your oil's been breaking down, which is like normal, and that's fine.
Right.
But like the more that is present, the more longevity you still have in your oil.
Right.
So aside from just getting hard data on, hey, you can go longer on your oil instead of just kind of doing it and not really knowing, um, if I didn't know why fuel was getting into my oil, it would have been really nice for them, it would have been really nice finding out, hey, you've got too much fuel in there. You might want to look into this. Um, stuff like that. Or if a bunch of metal starts showing up in my oil, they can tell you based on, certain parts are made out of certain metals. So if you start showing like a bunch of aluminum, like your block is made of aluminum. If you start showing a bunch of like copper and stuff like that, there's copper in your bearings. So they can start saying, hey, you might want to look at some of your bearings. You've got a lot of copper in your oil. Or steel. Steel is your crankshaft, your pistons. All those things are steel. So if they start, if you start showing that stuff in your oil, then you can kind of start to know where things are starting to wear out.
Right. Well, like I said before too, it's just the cost. If it's going to save you a couple thousand miles in between oil changes, you're going to benefit from that in the long run. Now,
Yeah,
for
I mean,
me,
an oil change usually like soup to nuts, all the filter, the oil, and then getting it tested is like $50.
how much do you pay for the Rotella
I think it's like $16 for a gallon.
for a gallon? See, I gotta look into that. Like I said, I'm paying that much for a liter, and it takes 3.5 liters to fill the Stelvio.
Oh, it's $25 for a gallon. Sorry. So it's $25 for a gallon of that, and then whatever, like $6 or something for the filter, and then
Right.
another 35. So it's a little more than $50.
Filters on Amazon and the oil on Amazon, and with Prime, it's free shipping, so I get it
Mm-hmm.
in a couple days.
Yeah, I do the same thing.
Pretty easy to do.
You can get if you're changing oil on a bunch of stuff, you can save some money. You can get a Rotella T6 pack of 3 for $80.
The T6 is, what's the rating on that?
Actually, that's not a savings. That's the opposite of a savings because it's $25 a gallon anyway. So I don't know what the heck they're
A lot of
smoking.
times on oil, though, I've noticed on the larger quantities like that, you don't save any money. Sometimes.
Yeah.
What's the rating on the T6?
5W40.
Is there an API rating on it?
I'd have to look. Let me find it.
Okay. Anyway, so there was a couple things that I had heard the other day that I wanted to kind of discuss a little bit, and
Sure.
we kind of missed the roundtable for the Pace podcast this month. But
Yeah.
the other day, and one of the things that they were talking about were some of the modifications that you make or the things you add to a bike. And then one thing that they didn't really talk about, and I think this really applies more to guys.
It's API CJ4.
Okay. CJ4. All right. I have to look at mine, but I think that's the same one they recommend for the Stelvio. So getting back, what I was saying is one of the things that they didn't really talk about, and I think it really applies more to people that are doing, long distance traveling, is some basic first aid training.
Yeah.
And this is the thing, is like everyone talks about having all this stuff on the bike, to fix a flat, or, tie wraps or duct tape and all this stuff, but just to have some basic first aid training will make a lot of difference if there is something really bad that happens. And I can tell you from knowledge of what happened to a friend of mine, where they were on a trip only a couple hours from here doing one of these weekend trips, and he got T-boned, him and his wife, by a car, and he unfortunately lost his leg. But one of the guys that was there had some basic first aid training and pretty much knew how to put a tourniquet on, and using makeshift stuff, and I think saved his life. because of
Yeah.
that. So just having some basic first aid training, you can go from there once you get the first aid training and figure out what you need to carry as far as a first aid kit. I'm not going to get into that, but just go seek out some basic first aid training, including a basic CPR class.
I mean, well, let's face it. So you were a paramedic for like a billion years.
More years than you've been alive.
Uh-huh. Not that many more though.
Like one or two.
Only like one or two. I'm creeping up on that number. But and I'm in the military, and we all get, first aid training to some degree. And then like in my job, we're all CPR certified.
Right.
And we did our first aid training, so we get like pretty bare bones first aid training. But at my last command, since we were search and rescue, like our guys, when they did our like required annual first aid training, went above and beyond. Like, treatment for stroke, like all the little acronyms and stuff. But I really couldn't agree more about first aid training. It's super critical.
Just that kind of popped into my head, and I thought I wanted to talk about it. That just the little bit of prevention that you get in a first aid class, knowing how to do CPR, just knowing how to stabilize somebody if they've fallen off a motorcycle or taken a bad hit, and not try to get up and walk them and things like that.
Right.
Could make all the difference in the world on somebody
Well, I mean,
having a recoverable injury or not.
When it comes down to it, who gives a crap about the bike? Like if something happens, I don't really care if you have duct tape to duct tape my seat back on. I'd really prefer you stabilize my neck injury.
Right.
And keep me from losing my ability to walk.
Right. Or not try to get you to get back up and walk around. Walk it off. I don't know, sometimes I've heard that. It's not going to repair anything, walking it off. So
no.
It's better just to recognize, to have a little bit of training to recognize, hey, this could be a really serious injury. Let's go ahead and get this looked at, or let's stabilize the guy until we can get, somebody here to transport him to the hosptal. That to me is really important. Anyway, off the rant for that.
Well, I mean, I think it's a totally suitable topic, and I wouldn't even necessarily call it a rant. Like I've got a pretty decent first aid kit. I didn't, like a lot of people put their own first aid kit together. I added a couple of things to a pretty substantial first aid kit that I bought. Mine's one that's made for like hunters.
Right.
So it's got a couple things in there for like, it's got a chest pad, like a big 5x9. It's got the big triangle pad. Like it's got a whole bunch of stuff for like heavy trauma in terms of like first aid.
Right. Stuff like you said, the trauma pad to cover like road rash, keep it dry and clean in case something were to happen. But I carry a tourniquet too, but that's just because I know how to use one. And
yeah, I've got one.
Yeah. I mean, the military, they kind of give them out like candy anyway. So
yeah.
But it's really easy now. You can do a quick web search and find like 5 companies that are making first aid kits specific for motorcycles.
Yep.
And adventure type riding, and then just add in there whatever consumables you like for yourself. Whether it's ibuprofen or acetaminophen, or if you like a particular kind of Band-Aid. That's the nice thing about some of these modular kits. You don't have to worry about replacing it with the stuff that it came with. You can just replace it with your own stuff.
Right.
One of the things that really is nice to have is a vacuum sealer. So with a vacuum sealer, you can buy bags, cut them to size, and vacuum seal all this stuff up so that even if it does get wet, it's not a big deal. Like if you're packing bags that are soft bags, you can vacuum seal up all your, whatever little dressings or Band-Aids you're carrying. You can make your own little pill packs. That vacuum sealers are really useful things to have, especially when you're going on a long trip. We used to vacuum seal stuff all the time at work, just for like, go bags and things like that, and they come in handy. So that's just another thing. You can also use them to vacuum seal like spare clothes, like an emergency set of clothes. Vacuum seal that in a bag, make it real small, and hide it somewhere. So anyway, we got there was another thing I was going to tell you about too. We didn't talk about before when I went to IMS. Did I tell you that I got a chance to demo the Harley Livewire?
No.
Yeah, so it wasn't a real. You didn't really actually get to ride the bike. They had the bike up on a set of rollers.
Did they like have wind blowing at you?
They had a big fan. No, they didn't have any.
And they took pictures.
No.
And you put in a quarter, and it was like do 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 do.
Not like that. Sorta, but not like that. you sign all the paperwork as if you were going on a real ride, which I thought
That's
was
funny.
strange. Yeah. So they had the bike kind of set up on these rollers, and they kind of went through like a little explanation of how the electronics package works on it, how you fire it up, and the different modes that it has.
Yeah.
But got a real sense of the amount of torque that this thing has when you twist the throttle on it. It's like right there, right now, all of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think riding one would be an absolute hoot. Kind of had a conversation with the guy about, are they going to actually make this thing? Because I know that it was more of a test to see if there was any interest. And he said that the interest is really, really high, that they're probably going to go in at some point into production. They're just still figuring out the battery issue.
Yeah.
The current version, I think he said, is about 70 miles on a particular mode. You change it into a different mode, you got a different, I don't remember what it was, you got a different miles on it. But, I told him, I said, hey, if this thing had like 150 mile or 125 mile range, I may actually consider something like this to commute on,
Yeah.
It's just a matter of then finding a place to charge it up. But it was really impressive. It was, and like anything else Harley Davidson makes, the fit and finish on it was really nice. But it was a pretty cool bike. So I'm going to kind of keep tracking that and see what happens with it. Hopefully when they bring it down here, I'll get a ride on one. And maybe they might even have them at Daytona. I don't know. I'll see. That would be interesting. So we got a letter by a guy. You want to read that? 'Cause it was actually addressed to you.
Which one? I actually have two.
Brian Massa, you have that?
Yeah, I've got it up right now. Actually, my name's Brian Massa. I just started listening to your podcast. I've recently found a passion for classic motorcycles. A friend and I decided to get some Honda Trail 90s, freaking wonderful machines, by the way, to restore and putt around on. During the process, I found it to be a fun and exciting project, and now I'm hooked. Yeah, it'll do that to you. One downside is that I never really rode before, so I'm going to use the Trail 90 to break myself in. Even though I haven't finished my first bike, I'm already looking for another bike I can start working on. The next motorcycle I start on, I want to make into a cafe racer. I was wanting to know some facts, tidbits, nuggets of info that I should be looking for when creating a cafe racer. Also, should I take into account my size, weight, abilities, etc.? He says he's 5'11" and 160 pounds. Or should I just get the first thing that I can get my hands on? So thanks, and keep up with the great podcast. Well, first of all, Brian, thanks for listening. And I hope you're listening again, because I didn't reply to you via email, as you noticed. Honestly, like the height and weight, I don't think is an issue at all.
Hayabusa, chop the front end down, put an extra wing arm on it, and you'll be fine.
Yeah, but in all seriousness, I mean, I'm 6 feet tall and I'm 190 pounds, and my Bonneville does look a little small, but I'm super comfortable on it. There's no issues, and I'd be, if you're not going out and deciding to make a cafe racer out of a Honda Grom, you're basically any normal size motorcycle is going to be fine. A 350, a 305, a whatever isn't going to be terrible. They're wonderful little bikes.
That's what I would say, honestly.
What's that?
My recommendation would be find something that's dependable, first of all.
Yes.
It's got a decent service history that hasn't already been chopped up. Try to find something that is close to original as you can.
Yep.
And then whatever your changes you make on them, make sure they're reversible. So don't go taking a grinder out and hacking anything off the bike right now. If you feel the necessity to take off fenders and change handlebars, do stuff that you can reverse. What I would really say is ride the bike in its standard form for a while and get used to it and see if you like it. And then once you start to change things on it, figure out what's going to have the longevity. I would say the first thing to do is sort out the suspension before you do anything else. Make sure that it's got new fluid in the front, if it has fluid in it, and that your suspension is set and in good working order. Because you might find that once the bike's set up for you, you might like it the way it is, and you might want to keep it like that, because you might not want to really cafe it out and find out that now it's uncomfortable for the long haul.
Mm-hmm.
The guys in the Vintage Iron Club has a really, really pretty CB750 that it's like the bike is like stock. And he's traveled all over on that thing. He goes to Barber on it, and that bike is a commuter for him, and it's really comfortable. So, Brian, I would say start with something dependable. Don't get something. Don't buy something that's already been somebody else's project. That's my opinion, because you don't know what you're going to find when you start working on it.
if you're looking at like specific suggestions for like bikes or parts, Dime City Cycles, I'm wearing their shirt. Ta-da! Um, has a great selection of parts, and they're super helpful if you call them or email them with ideas and how to do things and sort of like implementation of stuff. And I was honestly the first bike that came to mind especially when we started talking about reliability, is not very old. Um, if you could find something like an older Suzuki GS 500, the one without the fairing,
Absolutely.
that bike is bulletproof. You cannot kill it unless you really try. And it's a naked little standard made by Suzuki all through the 90s. And there's a like metric ass load of go faster parts for those things because they're super popular in club racing. And couple that with like finding a shop that can help you with some of the like easier body modifications, stuff like that, to give it a cafe flavor. Like I think that bike would be a freaking phenomenal newer cafe racer. If you wanted to go older, get an older Suzuki GS 500 from the 80s or something like that. Another suggestion actually is related to another email that I got. So we got an email from a guy. I'll read his email, and then this will kind of serve both, as a response to both. So a guy who goes by Izzy, he said, just heard his first show. He listened to the pomade episode, which was our last episode, the one about my hair, or at least that ended about my hair. He's a rider who's spent some time on a crotch rocket, and he's looking at a relatively inexpensive cafe bike, and he saw the Blue Collar Bobbers Ninja 250 Cafe, and I think that bike is absolutely gorgeous, also bulletproof, cheap, and the kit is, from what it appears, doesn't seem too hard to install, and is also pretty cheap. So to answer Brian's question and Juan or Izzy, yes, Blue Collar Bobbers Ninja 250 Cafe kit, boom, beautiful cafe bike. Get it painted cool, and
250 is a cool bike too. Like you said, bulletproof. What do you think about the Honda Ascot as well?
I don't really know anything about the Honda Ascot.
It's a single. It's a 500. They're cool bikes.
Oh yeah, kind of like this. Is it like? I'll just look one up.
It's another one that they end up in club racing a lot. It's a really neat bike. I always like.
Oh yeah, those are nice.
Yeah.
The VT 500.
Like I said, it's going to be what you can find locally, and take your time. Don't buy the first thing that you find, unless it's a screaming deal and somebody's giving it away. But just make sure that it's reliable. And I would personally shy away from anything that's advertised as a cafe racer, because it means they started to chop the thing up, didn't know what the hell they were doing, and now they got a bike that's unrideable.
Yeah.
They can't put back together. You start taking a saw to things, and you're not going to be fixing it easily. So,
yeah.
It's one thing if somebody just changed out some handlebars and took the standard bars off, put some Clubman bars on, or took a fender off and they still have that fender and you can put it back on. What you'll find is that sometimes what looks really cool and you think you want, maybe in practicality when you get it and you start riding around and like you ride through a little bit of a water puddle and now there's a streak of black mud up your back, or in your face because you took the fenders off, you decided this, I like this bike so much and I like to commute on it and ride it a lot more, but I want it to be a little bit more practical. So just don't rush to go start ripping stuff off of it right away and making the bike look like a cafe racer. There's a lot of stuff you can do to a bike that's a standard and kind of keep it that way. And then the other option is buying something that's, depending on what your budget is, buying something that's already built, like a modern classic, like the Thruxton or the Continental GT or the V7 racer that already looks like a vintage cafe racer. Now you got a modern bike with a warranty that's dependable that you could certainly travel on. Out of all those bikes, I'd say the Thruxton's probably got the longest legs on it. As far as dependability, you can't beat Gucci. The Continental GT is a really, really cool looking bike, but it's a single 500, so it tends to vibrate a little bit.
Yeah.
But those are kind of like my recommendations for now. Just don't go ripping stuff off of it. And the other thing is, if depending on his skill level, I don't, he said he started on the Trail 90.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really know how confident he feels he is on a little bit bigger machine, and maybe the 500, like the Suzuki you recommended, would be a good limit for now.
Yeah, that's why I really like the idea of the Suzuki or the Kawasaki.
Right.
The Ninja 250, I'll pull it up. If whoever's listening, if you look up blue collar bobbers, I'll screen share this thing too. It's gorgeous. Like they take this homely little,
Really good.
this like pretty homely looking little 250. Like you can see its silhouette up here. Like that's not pretty. And then you keep the tank, you keep a bunch of stuff. It all bolts right on. There's no like frame cutting, no welding. It all just bolts up. You remove other parts, you install new parts, and they've got a ton of different themes. What's that?
What's that kit cost?
I don't know. That's a great question.
They have different levels, don't they, on those?
Yeah, maybe.
There you go.
It's been a long time. It says Cafe Racer kit is $13.90. There's probably some other little, like they've got decals and stuff like that. But yeah, so it's basically $1,400 for the base kit. Yeah, really not bad.
Yeah, no, that looks really.
And they made GS 500s and they made Ninja 250s. They were stamping them out like 1,000 a minute, and they made them since like 1986. So, and they didn't change them until really recently. I think 2008 is when the change with the 250. Basically it's a new 250. But if you get a pre-2008 one,
right,
it's the same thing they made since '86.
Yeah, it's an easy bike to learn how to work on too.
Yeah,
especially in that guy's taking the plastic off of it and making that's really cool looking. I like that.
And somebody's going to tell you. I know that if you talk to people, somebody's going to say, and maybe not so much with Izzy's thing, because he's specifically looking for something smaller. He's a crotch rocket guy previously, so I know he's heard this argument. And Brian, you're going to hear, oh, you're just going to outride. You're going to outgrow that bike. If you get to the point where you're on the street getting 100% out of a Kawasaki Ninja 250, you need to take that thing racing, because I guarantee you there are men riding around tracks not getting 100% out of that bike.
That's a God's honest truth.
Yeah. I have an 800 and something cc Bonneville. I get like maybe 50% of that thing out at most ever.
Right. And I would, it all depends on the rider. I'd argue that too. The thing is though, he may decide. It's just like the same syndrome when someone goes to buy the quote unquote crotch rocket and they're like, oh, a 600 is too small for me. No, it's not. You just don't know what you're buying or how to ride it. That's just full on race bike. So don't let anyone tell you that getting a 250 is small. Now, it may be that you decide, hey, I want to go on a trip, or I want to carry my girlfriend or my wife on the back, I want to put bags on it and start. Okay, that's a different story.
Absolutely. You start adding like a bunch of weight to it. It makes sense. You might want to
still keep the bike though, because that for me to have a lot of fun on a weekend, the 250 would probably be a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
To go out and depending on where you live and carve some canyons or do some back road riding, that bike's going to be a blast, especially to go to a bike night and hang out. The way it looks, it's a cool bike.
Yeah, and Izzy, if you do decide to get the cafe, the blue collar bobber thing, and do that, please send us pictures. And you're in San Diego, so send me an email and I will come take pictures if you will not.
Yeah, same with Brian too. Whatever you buy and you end up working on, send it to us. Now you kind of mentioned that you already had a bike, and I don't know if you were talking about the Trail 90 or something else that you were working on, but send us some photos. We'll put them up and see what you got. you know, they.
And thanks for listening and sending us some emails. It's always good to have stuff to talk about.
So speaking of emails, I got an email the other day from the publisher of a magazine called Asphalt and Dirt, which I checked it out and it's kind of cool. And a friend of ours, Zoe Kano, who wrote a book about traveling through the United States on a Bonneville, she's a Brit. He kind of recommended that he contact us, and I talked to him and checked out his website. And Asphalt and Dirt's kind of new. They're based out of San Francisco, but check them out. It's asphaltanddirt.com, and they've got cool stories in there. And they kind of tend to focus on individual riders. So there's some interesting stuff on there. But one of the stories that they had that I thought was pretty funny is there's a society for one-wheeled motorcycle racing. Did you happen to see that?
No.
I posted a link. I'll have to find it. I posted a link on the Facebook page for it, but apparently what these guys do is they take the front wheel suspension off the bike and they've got like a sled underneath it and then like drag race with one wheel. And it seems to be really big overseas, like in
Okay,
Europe.
I just found this.
Yeah. Let's see. Bring in here. The association, there was two.
So these are the people that like they sit behind the wheel, right?
Kind of.
Yeah.
Well, they're kind of like laying on the bike. I watched some of the videos and it's like completely insane. But the really funny part about it was, which I really thought, there was two sanctioning bodies that kind of got molded into one, and there was an American. I'll have to tell you what this is called. It was pretty hilarious. Let me find it real fast. So it's asphaltanddirt.com for the website, but let me find that story. Okay, where is it at now? Anyway, these guys are pretty nuts, and the sanctioning body for the United States is called ANUS. Right. ANUS. I saw that. I'm like, this has got to be a joke, but no, apparently it's not. It's real. If you go on here and you check it out, I'm trying to find out where it is on here, on the page, but yeah, it's pretty wild. It's really very funny.
It's a great name.
Yeah, right. So I guess like the lady who's the president, the publisher of the magazine, Aaron, had emailed me and so we were talking about how hilarious that was, but he said that the president's like in Florida, so I might try to look her up, find out, if they're doing any races here.
Oh no, Steve, are you back?
I thought that was kind of hilarious.
Oh
Anyway,
wait, now we're all here.
yeah, we seem to be having some bandwidth issues today. I don't know what end it's on, but
I don't know. We do live as like a country apart, so who knows? This is some great radio. Hey, and there we go. And Steve dropped out. So I'm going to look up some reviews while Steve gets back in here. You can send us feedback like our two listeners today by emailing feedback@caferacerpodcast.com. You can also go on Twitter and find us at Cafe Racer Pod. And I'm on Twitter at Cafe Racer X. I'm also on Instagram at Cafe Racer X, although I almost never post. We are Cafe Racer Podcast on Instagram, and you'll find way more pictures there, more posts there. Mostly Steve, but sometimes me. Looks like Steve's coming back, though.
Dumped me right out.
Yeah. I was telling them where they could find us, on the internet and such.
On the internet, it doesn't work.
Yeah. Like I was saying, where they could send feedback to and stuff like that.
I think I'm looking outside here, and it's starting to look like it cleared up, and there's no rain, and I might have to get on the motorcycle. But there's a couple other things we can save them for next show, though. Just a couple other things I wanted to talk about, and we've been going on about an hour now, haven't we?
Something like that.
Yeah.
I don't really have a concept of time.
Really? That's weird.
Not really.
Because it falls on your head?
I don't know. Raindrops keep falling on my head.
Or is it a Navy thing?
I don't know. I've never really had a good been able to guess how long anything takes.
That's really weird. So you think 5 minutes is 3 hours?
Sometimes.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know. I
eternity.
Yeah, it depends on what I'm doing. If I'm doing something I'm interested in, obviously it feels like it was 3 hours feels like 5 minutes.
We've just been broadcasting for 3 hours.
I don't believe you. I know that's not true because I do have a clock, and it. I mean, I could look it on my phone and see when I started this thing.
Still gonna try to make it out to AIM in October? We still.
Yeah, I'm thinking so. So I've decided that the trip that I had previously been taking every year in July, I'm not going to take this year. So I'm definitely not going out to Utah this year because of some other things that are going on, and then I will hopefully by October be settled enough to be able to come out to AIM.
Okay, so that sounds like it's going to work because I was worried we're taking a trip to Italy.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be in November, so the beginning of November. And
sounds great.
Mike Kaiser texted me the other day and asked if we were going to be at Overland Expo West, and I told him I wouldn't be there.
I don't think I'd probably not.
Yeah, so
I want to go, but
I'd like to go again, but it's just that's for me. That's 2 weeks. I need to go for Italy.
I could drive my honestly. I could take a long weekend and drive my truck out one day, and then hang out a whole day and then drive home, because it's not a terribly long drive for me.
Right.
7 hours, but maybe that, but probably not.
Well,
some pretty big changes happening in the Crash household, so.
Right. Depending on when the East Expo is, which is very close to AIM, for me, AIM's going to be a priority.
Yeah.
Just because there's so much going on there, and I think it's going to grow, and I think if I had to guess, you'll probably see the addition of BMW and Honda there.
Cool. I think, from after hearing you talk about it for 2 years now, I can't, I feel like I can't not go.
Well, what we'll do is we'll plan on, because I always go up on Friday, which is the last day of the press day. Maybe this time we'll be there for the first day on Thursday.
Maybe.
Same format. And that way we'll be able to see all the press rollouts and do that too, and do some more videos. I know I've done a bunch of videos, and I just haven't posted them yet. I'm still I'm having some issues with software to sort out what I'm going to be using to put this stuff together. So once I get this all squared away, there'll be a day that I spend just editing video, and you guys will have a bunch of content from the Vintage Iron Clubs Festival, from the Revival Rally, and a couple other things that we did. So I got a lot of cool stuff from all of it. And that's it. That's all I got for today.
Yeah. New logo really soon. We were in the last final bit of revision there, and then stickers and new website eventually based on the new logo, because the color scheme is completely different and it would look really stupid on our current website.
Right, exactly. I'm excited about it.
Me too.
Right. Hey, check us out on Instagram, Cafe Racer Podcast, on Twitter.
Yeah, Steve posts a lot of pictures there.
Yeah.
After we get off the show, I need the password to the Instagram again, by the way.
Yeah, I'll give it to you. I thought I emailed it to you. Then the other thing, if you like the show and you like us, or even if you hate us, go to iTunes and leave us a review. It helps us out a lot in our iTunes rating. So
yeah,
we do this for, people have sent me some messages on Facebook. Hey, Shane, thanks a lot. We do this because we both love motorcycling and our lives kind of revolve around it, but we do it for you guys out there too. So share content and stuff with us. If you guys got interesting stories or pictures, send them to us and we'll get them up.
Absolutely.
All right, that's all I got.
All right, we'll get out there and ride.